Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are cracking open a classic Nigerian folktale, a story that's been told for generations. It's a fantastic tale that explains a natural wonder through a pretty powerful lesson about wit, greed, and, well, a very unfortunate fall.
So let's start with a question you've probably asked yourself at some point. Why does a tortoise's shell look like it's been shattered and glued back together? Well, believe it or not, this ancient story has an answer, and it's woven right into the fabric of West African folklore.
You know, this kind of why story actually has a special name. It's called a pourquoi story, which is, you guessed it, French for why. They're basically origin stories that explain the world around us, and they are absolutely key to understanding the tale we're getting into today. Okay, let's dive right in. Our story begins a long, long time ago, back when animals could still talk like people and live together as one big community. But this was during a time of great hardship across the land. Now, at the very center of our tale is the tortoise, or Mbeku, as he's known in Igbo culture. And he was famous for one thing above all else. He was incredibly clever. But he was also incredibly greedy. He was a master sweet talker, but it didn't matter how much he always wanted more. So, the land was in the grip of a terrible famine. The rivers were dry, the crops had failed, every single animal was struggling to survive. But right in the middle of all this desperation, the tortoise overhears a little secret, a glimmer of hope that was only meant for the birds. There was going to be a massive feast, overflowing with food, way up in the sky. And just like that, the tortoise was consumed with jealousy. He had to get to that feast. I mean, we're talking about a grand celebration with plates of delicious fruits and amazing meals, way better than anything on Earth. But of course, there was one very big, very obvious problem. A tortoise can't fly. So what does he do? He puts that cleverness to work. He goes to the birds with this humble, soft voice, flattering them, telling them how beautiful they are. And then he makes them an offer. He'll be their spokesperson, their eloquent representative at the feast. Now, the birds knew his reputation, so they were hesitant, but his sweet words, they just won them over. And this just shows you how persuasive he was. Each bird plucked out a single feather and gave it to him. With this amazing collection of borrowed feathers, the tortoise built himself a pair of wings, and for the very first time in his life, he lifted off the ground. He could fly. But here's where it gets really sneaky. Before they even leave, he sets up a trick. He tells the birds, hey, it's customary to take on new names for a special occasion like this. The birds thought, okay, sure. And they picked names like Beauty and Joy. The tortoise just smiled and said, my name will be All of You. All right, let's go to the feast itself. When they get up to the sky, they're greeted by this incredible sight, a table just overflowing with food. The tortoise's devious little plan was just about to pay off big time. Their host welcomed them with open arms. Standing in front of this unbelievable spread of food, he made a very generous announcement to all of his guests. And boom, the trap was sprung. Before a single bird could even move, the tortoise stepped right up. His clever wordplay was suddenly revealed for what it was, a shocking, unbelievable act of betrayal. The birds could only watch, completely horrified, as the tortoise ate almost the entire feast. The fruits, the grains, the best dishes. He just ate and ate until he was fat and full, showing the true depth of his greed and leaving the very ones who helped him get there with nothing but scraps. Oh, the birds were furious. I mean, can you blame them? They'd been tricked, used, and totally humiliated. Their trust was shattered, and right then and there, they started plotting their revenge. And so, the very feathers that let him fly so high became the instrument of his downfall. One by one, each bird went up to the fat, full tortoise and snatched back the feather they'd given him. His beautiful wings just disappeared, and he was left totally stranded, unable to fly, all alone, high above the earth. He was terrified, so the tortoise tried one last trick. He begged a bird flying by to take a message to his wife. Please, he said, tell her to pile up all the soft things in our house so I can jump and land safely. The bird said sure, but then delivered a very, very different message, turning the tortoise's own deception right back on him. Way up in the sky, the tortoise looked down. He saw his wife moving things around in the yard and, completely trusting in his own cleverness, he was sure his plan had worked. He took a deep breath and jumped. He just tumbled through the clouds, plunging toward the earth, picking up terrifying speed with every second. He landed with this enormous crash, not on a pile of soft blankets, but on the hard stones and sticks his wife had laid out. His final, clever trick had reached its devastating end. And that catastrophic fall, that is the exact moment that gives the tortoise his unique shell. It's the moment the why of our entire story is finally answered. His smooth, proud shell was shattered into a million tiny pieces. His wife, completely heartbroken, carefully, painstakingly glued him back together again. But the lines, the cracks, they never went away. His shell became a permanent physical reminder of his greed and his pride. This story perfectly captures the tortoise's really complex role in Igbo culture, and honestly, the role of trickster figures in stories all over the world. See, he isn't just a villain. He's this agent of change who uses his wits to survive and challenge the rules. But he's also a warning. That exact same cleverness, when it's fueled by greed, becomes a tool for self-destruction. And that's really the heart of why these stories get told. They're so much more than just entertainment. In cultures with strong oral traditions, stories like this are like living instruction manuals. They carry a community's wisdom, its ethics, its values, passing down these critical lessons from one generation to the next. And the moral here is crystal clear. Pride goes before a fall, and cleverness without honesty can break even the strongest shell. And this reminds us that every single culture has its own pourquoi stories, its own ways of explaining the world. So that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. What stories from your culture explain the world around you?